My buddy Max and I picked up an 11-foot whaler with a 2-stroke 30 on it and downrigger mounts for $5,000 with the trailer. And it had been stored outside for a few years and had some bumps and bruises, and we kicked the tires pretty good before we brought it home, but once we got it into the garage and under some good lighting, we realized why we got such a good deal on it. Boston Whaler's thing is the foam core. They actually ran some ads in the 80s where they'd cut a boat in half and the halves would still float. It's the unsinkable boat for serious anglers, and I don't know how serious we're gonna be on an 11-foot boat, but our boat is 30 years old, and when I looked at the transom and the deck and noticed they were kind of warped, I started to fear that our foam core was more like a sponge. So there's just not a good seal on anything. Like, this was a bad seal, then the second gen was a bad seal, and this needed to happen a long time ago. There's the wiring. Oh yeah. Definitely didn't look up how much this shit's gonna cost before we pulled it off. We sanded off the anti-fouling paint, and our outfitter specialist at Defender, he recommended that we just sand down the existing gel coat, just buff it, so the next layer would have something to stick to. There were so many holes in this boat. And for a rig that fosters a fear of water leaking into old foam, way too many holes. So we went nuclear and mixed up some Marine Tex. Marine Tex can be applied on vertical or horizontal surfaces, easily fill gaps, and can be shaped to rebuild damaged components. And the adhesive shear strength to fiberglass and wood is stronger than either substrate. Okay, they're just bragging for the first paragraph. How do we use this? Handles like putty, hardens like steel, and sands like wood, as long as you get the mix ratios correct and it's warm enough in your garage.
Let's call that 1.
So with the anti-fouling removed, the gel coat scuffed, the fairing compound and filler cured and sanded, it was time to paint the hull. So what we learned is that gel coat doesn't cure in the presence of oxygen. It's meant to harden in a sealed, temperature-controlled mold. So we got some with wax, and the wax additive is meant to float to the surface of a layer of gel coat and effectively seal it so that the material underneath can cure. But you want to do that as your last coat, so it can seal everything underneath it. If each coat has wax, you're gonna have to sand off that wax before you apply the next one so it can stick, which is what I opted to do. And it sucked. I didn't have any gel coat without wax, and rather than waiting for it to ship, I figured I'd just go for it, and I regret that.
As you should. Gel coat is not paint, it's a chemical reaction, it's structural. It's very durable, but also may kill 45. See, gel coat doesn't dry. Instead, you hit it with methyl ketone peroxide, and that's gonna
Methyl ethyl ketone peroxide.
Methyl ethyl ketone peroxide decomposes into free radicals. Free radicals attack your polyester and your styrene, and this cross bonding is what makes for your very hard plastic. Of course, the danger of curing not with plain old air, but with a catalyst, is these free radicals.
That sounds sick.
Sick indeed. Free radicals will shag plain old oxygen given half a chance, and that's going to leave your gel coat to only partially cure, which is why this is properly applied into the factory mold and then covered with fiberglass, so it cures in this anoxic environment, not just smothered with wax and gumption like 45 is doing. Suspect he'll quit by the time he gets to the deck.
I am not gonna paint the deck with gel coat. I found a 2-part epoxy for that. This boat is for children. I'm 6'4", and forget the fact that I look like a grizzly bear in a bathtub, it's uncomfortable. This thing is so tiny that if I move my coffee mug to one side, I'll feel the weight shift, not to mention the fact that the battery and the gas tank and an oversized motor are all against the transom. So it's time to just move the weight forward. I saw some of the newer models have the console in the center, and I like that, and I thought maybe we could tuck the gas tanks under the benches and then put the battery under the steering wheel. I did some rudimentary mock-ups just to make sure everything would kind of fit. So once I had my design, I realized that I didn't actually have enough of the right shapes of the original mahogany to build it. So I figured I'd go cheap and build it out of plywood and make sure everything fit. Even though I used a computer to design the thing, I didn't really trust it. I want to actually sit in the thing that I built and make sure that I like the way it feels. And if I like it, then I'll remake it in expensive, permanent hardwood. I'm just gonna start with a fresh piece. We need 2 8.5s, but wait, material thickness. I do 8.5, 8.5, no I can't, I can do 8 and 8. The one at 8.5 can actually be 7 and change, but I don't, I need 8.5, 8.5. That's the outer, it has to be 8.5, so the one, cool. I've never used this little thing before. Shit. But then once we built the prototype, I liked it. What we've done is we've built a console for it. And
At this point in the build, we'd gotten a little creative with some of our design choices, and just for peace of mind, we called Defender's Outfitter Specialist Program. Caitlin answered all of our questions and made us feel a lot more confident moving forward.
Okay, so we're gonna repurpose these, and we're gonna put them like this inside here, and then the same up here. And I have nut certs for here, nut certs for there, and then for the inside ones we use screws, because they'll stay permanently on there with sealant. Oh, hi. Welcome to my shitty boat. Once the install was complete and we sat in the thing, it didn't just feel comfortable, it felt right. We were really proud of ourselves, you know? We did our homework, we made a prototype, we had a digital mock-up, and everything seemed really good. We thought we were starting to get the hang of it. But when we attempt to put the whole boat back together and do all the finishing touches, a classic parade of fuck-ups ensues that makes our lives and this channel so much more interesting. So now we got to pop the top off and we'll thread the steering line through it. And then we put the top back on and then the wheel and all the shit on the dash. Dude, we're fucked. We have to pull the bottom off. This is tiny home level bullshit right here. The mounting plate for the steering hub didn't work in the recessed position. It meant that the steering line was in too tight of a bend and it was binding the worm gear. So we had to rock it like this, which is why we've got about 1.5 inches of a rusty neck on our steering wheel. This thing does not want to be where we're putting it. I think we're just bending the shit out of it. Look at that. Those bolts are too long. We're f***ing this thing up. Let's bolt this back in there. One roadblock that we saw coming and just were sort of not talking about it. The original steering rod was seized in the motor. I figured I'd heat it up with a torch, try and loosen things up. Then I thought I was really smart by drilling a hole through the thing and then sticking a tool in there and trying to twist it. Cool. But brute force eventually prevailed. That's satisfying. Oh shit, can you imagine if we just broke the glass, how funny that would have been? The grease just turned to glue, man. So now it was time to get the motor back onto the boat and out of my shop. It was kind of a bitch to get the cav plate level with the bottom of the transom. When we're on the bottom hole on the motor and the bottom hole in the transom, the cavitation plate is lined up at the hull. So this is the correct position for this motor on this boat. Except, damn it. Still gonna hit, dude. How is it possible that that's still gonna hit? Wait. Isn't there another rod? Oh. Sweet Jesus. Awesome. That's a win. There's not a lot of selection for rub rails for small boats. Like the smallest size you typically see is like 30 feet. This profile was only available in like 60, so we gotta get some more tiny boats. Okay, so this is the base that we're gonna put on first, and then there's an insert, and it's pre-drilled, which is really nice. And what they ask you to do is they tell you to like beeline it from the tip of the bow screws to the ones on the transom, and then you'll stretch it over the cap, and that'll be enough stretch. This seems like should be okay, should go according to plan. This boat is so short, and this is a 60-foot rub rail made for a much bigger boat. There's less line to stretch, so it got a little bit aggressive. Heat gun. Rope. Maybe wood? I didn't see any of this in the tutorial. Funny bone. Oh, fingers, fingers, fingers. Okay. I don't know if that's how I was supposed to do it, but we did it. And it looks good, dude. Once that second stainless end cap went on, the boat was done. Yeah, dude, I'm happy with that. It felt really good to do a custom job that doesn't look too hacky, because these boats are so classic. There's such a rich history, and they're such a iconic brand in the boating world that it feels like we'd be kind of doing it a little bit of an injustice with the hubris involved in thinking we could improve upon the OEM setup. But once we got out onto the water, I knew we made some good choices. It's fast. It's not even too fast, it's just really fast. They say the first thing you want when you get a new boat is a bigger boat, and for us, that's definitely true. But given all the work that we put into this thing and the satisfaction we felt when we finally got it out on the water with just a two-man team, what we really need is a bigger budget. So like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. All right, guys, time to go. That means you, Ed. Leave the glass.
Fucking boats.